everybody. My name is James. I'm here to talk to you about how I am trying to teach Julia through GitHub. This is me in high school. I think it's a very good picture of me. I want to appear younger. I'm a scientific machine learning enthusiast. I work in mostly biomedical data, and I love open source, and I enjoy a good joke. I've been seeing Julia around for a while, but this is my first JuliaCon. I've really enjoyed the language over the past year. We're in the age of ChatGPT. I know this is kind of going to scare people away because nobody wants to talk about AI because everybody is. But I was thinking in terms of how easy it is to create code now. I have a question, just do this in Julia for me. Now, there's a lot of problem with hallucinations and all that jazz, but I try to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's younger, not as experienced programmer of oh, I just want to do this and put it through. I just want answers on this, as opposed to actually learning the syntax of the language and the little ins and outs. Because a lot of Julia is that in terms of optimization, getting the JIT right, all that jazz. And the way that I put that in is that basically that if you want an easy answer for stuff, that's going under. So the way that we've been teaching stuff like programming languages in general kind of needs to change, as opposed to I have a question, how do I write it, go through that. And then even if it's easier than others, Julia's, I think, is a bit of a straightforward language in that way. It's not like Haskell and all that jazz. It can be hard to learn, especially to beginners. We have a ton of interesting use cases in the community. And all of these, though, are also kind of opaque in terms of, do you know trajectory dynamics, all that jazz? Do you know stuff of imaging and MRI? If you're a programmer who doesn't quite know this, how do you get into the language itself? If you want to contribute and be a very productive member of the community. And because of that melding between programming and science all at once, we do have stuff like the Julia Academy, but a lot of that is notebooks that people go through to try and you run it, as opposed to something a bit more dynamic. I put a pros and cons here of just you can put it out in terms of this notebook, try to solve this for data frames, all that jazz, a lot of stuff Logan K had done in the past, which was really good. There's a lot of good things for that. But the problem with that is that it's really siloed from what you would actually be working on day to day when you're trying to learn. And basically, there's not a lot of community help of stuff that you have to go in and prod it yourself for this, sort of get on that big Slack thread to find all the answers in the universe. Thank you for the talk beforehand, by the way. Basically, I'm just talking about some obstacles here in terms of, yes, Julia is very science-based, but it's also very, I don't want to say insular, but you have to know the topics that you're working on in order to contribute it when it's very hard to be a beginner and ramp up for it. And I think that's to its detriment in a way in terms of open source and being able to help out packages. So then, while I was going through this, does everybody know what Hacktoberfest is? So yeah, I really love Hacktoberfest. It's really what got me into open source and contributing stuff because I really wanted that T-shirt many years ago. Very weird incentive to go through it, but it worked. Basically, what it is, for you don't know, is that you make full pull requests for participating repos. If you do that and they're tagged correctly, you get a T-shirt or you'd be able to plant a tree. And the idea is to get people to contribute to open source code a lot more. The issue of this is sort of what I was describing beforehand in terms of people are not maybe experts on the field of whatever repository they're contributing to, and they don't know what to do. So you get a lot of bad code, a lot of stuff that people have to grind through. They've made changes to the rules where you have to opt in to be at a Hacktoberfest repo, all that jazz, but I still think there was a thing of how do I even approach this? And a repo I loved was called the Haskell Learn for Haskell Hacktoberfest project. Basically, what it is you make there's 4 chapters in there of you learn how to actually write Haskell with interactive things, you'd fill in the blanks over here or allow it to do this. And it runs GitHub actions and the community looks it over to verify it and make sure it's good for it. So it's oh, this passed, this works, this didn't. For beginners of a language like Haskell, which is a functional language, in case anybody didn't know. And I found it really easy to start to learn how the language actually worked and monads, all that jazz. These are the different types of things you could learn for Haskell. And I thought that was a great paradigm shift because usually pull requests are one person contributing to one big repo in the community. This is a way of the community giving back in terms of oh, it's not just contributions. You're going to learn how to actually do that for it. And I thought that was 4 minutes. I thought you were just showing me the number 4 for no reason. Yeah, because it's learn for Haskell. I'm like, what a cheerleader. Yeah, sorry for that. But basically within that, I thought it's like, this is a really good idea in terms of having to do that with Julia. Basically, you make a lot of repositories on this in terms of like you build similar chapters. Sorry, I'm just going to bounce around a bit more of this, that like these are example tests, stuff you do for differential equations and flux, still some kinks being maxed out. But the idea is you can asynchronously put stuff in and see if it passes a test or not in terms of, did I code this correctly? Is this giving me like a result that's within it? Is very good for async learning and then giving guidance by people. It's like, oh, they just have a PR up. We can go through it. I also put sort of the steps for like how GitHub actions actually work through here in terms of it's like you have the workflow, you have the job, you take a step in action, in which case like pass, fail through it. And just the sort of like before and after within it. I really should have, it's like inputting the function here in terms of train, getting the optimizer for it, like learning the actual package of flux within it. And I really like that idea. I've not opened it up to a lot of people like the repo is live, but it's more of like experimenting with this because I thought it's really important to get people to use Julia a bit more. This is the idea of like, once you finish the conceptual chapter, it closes the PR automatically. So it's like, okay, you've passed. And in this case, it's accepted into like the GitHub, Hacktoberfest for that. And what I like about that is Julia, again, just can go all the way back here, has a lot of different ways that this can be used, from robotics to earth science to MRIs. And I think this is like a nice, easy project in the fall for people to go do to help out in. I was also thinking in the future in terms of like what would be very useful for a project like this, in which case like not everybody has time to check on the community and build more stuff. And I don't want to like continuously push like ChatGPT LLM stuff, but thinking back to my time with Learn for Haskell and Hacktoberfest, that basically having a little plugin to say, like, hey, you did this right, this is the correct syntax for that, or to create new things to keep up what's the most popular. Like these are the ideas that I've had that I've worked on and put in there. These are some future stretch goals I've started to work on to put in with it. And yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff for this community to sort of grow and get new people excited in the maths and sciences, and of course, Julia itself. I'd like to give a thanks. Obviously, I took the idea from Learn from Haskell, the Vroom 991, who is the owner of the repository. And basically, again, like Logan Kay, who did a lot for me going into this and seeing what he's done to help educate the community in Julia. And if you want to contribute, here's the QR code for it. That is for the GitHub repository, not my Venmo. But if you do want to give me money, I will be available after the talk.